Hey guys, Drew here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about 6 ways that you can get better with money in 2020. So if one of your goals this year is to save more money, then stick around for the list. If you're trying to get better with money and specifically trying to save more money, the first and easiest actionable step you can take is to practice patience in purchases. This means that we're trying to limit the amount of impulse purchases that we're liable to make. If I am at a store and I see something, or I'm online and I see something that I really want, and I think I can definitely use this. This is something that is really going to be great for me, and I'm really pumped to get it. I wait. I always wait at least 1 to 2 days. Wait that long because that's enough time for the impulse to go away, and then I'll come back to it. And if it's something that I still want then and I still can justify and need, then I go ahead and get it. However, this works very well because most of the time we realize by that day or two that we don't really need it that much, and it was more of an impulse that we were feeling that specific day based on some type of stress that was happening with our lives or with work, or something that we were just specifically excited about in the short term. This is definitely something that we all struggle with as humans, and more so than anything else, I would say, with online shopping, because it's so easy when you need something, you just go online to Amazon or eBay or whatever site that you prefer to use. You find what you want, you sort by the lowest to highest, and you go ahead, you buy it. While that's really convenient, and in a lot of ways it's definitely very helpful and makes life a lot easier, it's a trap that is very easy for people to fall into if they are prone to impulse purchases. A really good way to try and get around this impulse that I really like, on Amazon you can go and set up shopping lists, wish lists, and you can name each of these. So as an example, on my Amazon, I set up, every time I have an impulse of, oh, I want a new rash guard for jiu-jitsu, or I want new boxing gloves, or I want new shoes for hiking, or a new pack for running, or whatever it may be. I make a list on Amazon, a shopping list underneath that title. When I want an item, I just initially go ahead, I add it to the shopping list as an idea, kind of like a scratch pad, and then I'll come back and look at it later. If I still want the item and it still makes sense, then I'll go ahead and get it. But this is a really good way to limit impulse purchases, especially online, where that's exactly what it's designed to do, is to get us to act on that impulse. The other category where people are prone to impulse purchases, the classic example before online shopping even came into the equation, is of course food. The old saying of don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry because you'll buy more. It's definitely a true anecdote. That being said, I think a more powerful suggestion when it comes to grocery shopping is not to make it a habit of stopping and getting one little thing at a time. You shouldn't generally be visiting the grocery store multiple times throughout the week. If you can limit yourself to going to the grocery store just one day per week, the odds of you buying impulse items drop significantly. And as an added benefit, you'll spend less of your life in stores, which I count as a huge benefit as a person who doesn't like going to stores. The next step I would suggest for getting better with money is to check your bills and to track your spending. So this means just looking on your online bank statements, whether it's your checking account or your credit card accounts, at least once a month. First of all, checking for if there's errors or there's missed charges, but checking and making sure you can see what you're spending on. This way you'll be able to determine where you're overspending and where you can tighten up on your budget. A good first step before even worrying about the tracking portion of this is looking at certain bills or purchases that are recurring and seeing if you're able to save money on those. A classic example of this, and one that will make the biggest dent usually, is car insurance. Oftentimes we'll go for years and years without ever checking to see what the competition is doing, because things change. Prices move. Competition is always between these companies. One place that's a really good resource is the zebra.com. I highly suggest going out there. I'm not affiliated with this site, but it's what I use. It's a very good resource for finding the cheapest car insurance in your area, given the coverage options that you want. Most of the time, you'll be able to save between $500 to $1,000 per year if you're overpaying. When I moved from North Carolina to California, the Geico insurance policy that I had ended up being exceptionally higher in California than it was in North Carolina. And I remember that I switched to Mercury, and I believe I saved around $500, effectively the easiest way for you to get paid $500 to $1,000 back in your bank account. Other popular items to check are cell phone bills, internet and cable/TV services. So, whether it's Netflix or Hulu, looking at those and seeing what makes the most sense for you. Because again, these are some that we fall complacent with. And then gym memberships. Oftentimes people spend way too much money on gym memberships. And if you're going to a specific gym, oftentimes, especially the more populated of an area you live in, the more gyms there are, you can usually get introductory bonuses. So it's good to look out for those, because you can usually get free weeks or free months and bounce around, see what you like, but at the same time, save a little bit of money. Another good option for gyms that I've recently heard about is called ClassPass. If you look it up online and just look up ClassPass in your area, whatever the specific city is, there will be certain gyms that are within that network, and you get credits towards each gym. And oftentimes this is a way that you can save money, because it'll end up being gyms that are trying to give introductory or promotion prices. If you're not wanting to be married to one specific gym and that's not something that is important to you, then this might be something to check out as well. Once you've checked bills and you're looking through statements, then the next action item is to start tracking your spending. Figure out certain categories, break those categories down, and determine how much you're spending in each of them. Personally, I like to use Google Sheets because I work with Excel a lot, so I'm really to that platform, and I like the customizability of it and not having to work with a specific template. If you're not as comfortable with Excel, there are several good free budgeting/tracking apps. The most popular one that many people like is Mint. Mint is really good. It has a great app. Personally though, I prefer NerdWallet. If you go online to their website, nerdwallet.com, you can set up a profile using your Gmail account. It's a really good resource just in general for tips and for tracking. And then what they'll do is they'll send you emails, both of these, Mint or NerdWallet, will send you emails when you get paid or when you have bills coming up. So it's a really good, comprehensive way if you're just getting started. Now that you've been tracking your spending, you're going to want to move on to the third action, which is making a budget. To do this, you're going to want to separate cost between things that are fixed and things that are variable. When I'm talking about fixed items, I mean things that you need. Think of things like housing or rent, transportation, so whether that's a car payment, gas, registration, insurance, or whatever public transportation you would use to get to work, and internet and other utilities. Variable expenses are going to be things like food, entertainment, gym memberships, and other miscellaneous purchases. This is where you're going to look to cut the fat out of your budget. And now that you've determined the amount of money you're able to save by cutting back on discretionary spending, you're going to want to put that towards debt, put it in high interest savings accounts as part of an emergency fund, or you're going to want to look at that as more that you should contribute to retirement. So that leads into number 4, which is to start planning for retirement. The easiest action for planning for retirement is to look at your current employer's 401k plan, or 403b or A, depending on the company, but look at the retirement plan that your company currently has. For those that are not familiar, with a retirement plan like a 401k, you would go and select the percentage you would have taken out of your check every pay period and put in an investment account that will allow that money to grow and accrue interest over time up until you reach a retirement age. See if they offer a match. If they offer a match, meaning that they put in a specific percentage into that retirement account, assuming that you are going to put in a percentage. As an example, most companies will give a 50% match up to 3%. In this example, that would mean that if you put in, say, 6%, then the company would put in half of that up to the 3% max, which would mean that you put in 6%, they put in 3%, you have 9% in total going into that retirement account. This is something you should definitely take advantage of because it's free money. It's effectively a 3% pay raise, and it's the easiest money you're going to get. After making sure you get the match, then I would say that you should prioritize making an emergency fund. So an emergency fund is generally suggested to be 3 to 6 months worth of your spending. And I would say the best option for this is to put that money in a high yield savings account. Examples of this are Wealthfront, Tab Bank, Ally Bank. And if you want to know more about those, look at my last video. Also, I will be doing a video in the future breaking down different high yield savings accounts and which ones I think are the best. But basically the idea is that those will offer around 2% interest. You want to make sure that you have enough money set aside in case of an emergency so that you never have to withdraw from your retirement account, because if you have to pay a penalty because you withdraw it early, it's not going to be an advantageous move. So I highly suggest putting that into a high interest savings account at least 3 months worth of your spending being things like rent, food, basic necessities. Once you make sure you're getting at least the match at your company for your retirement account, and you make sure that you have an emergency fund. And the next step is, depending on your specific situation and how much money you're currently making, you're going to want to look at the different options there are. These examples are 401ks, both traditional and Roth. Generally speaking, the less you make, the more you're going to want to put in a Roth early on, and the later you're going to want to put more in a 401k. I'll do a breakdown explaining the difference between these, but basically the idea is that a 401k traditionally is a pre-tax account. So this means you're able to put a higher principal in initially. So basically the interest that's accruing is accruing on a higher principal, but you end up paying taxes later on it when you withdraw it. Whereas with a Roth, you pay taxes up front, and then that principal grows without having to pay taxes at the end, so you end up paying no taxes on the interest earned. The other benefit of a Roth is that you have more flexibility in being able to withdraw funds if you need to. So for this reason, I would personally prioritize a Roth, especially if you're young. Basically, you can pull out the principal as long as you leave the interest without a penalty, which I think is a huge advantage, especially if you're just first starting out and you're trying to save up for, bigger purchases like a house or something else down the road. And then the other one to look at is an HSA. If your company offers a health savings account, I highly suggest looking into this. This is another great investment vehicle. Definitely take advantage of it because the tax advantages on it are really, really nice. And I'll do a video breaking that down as well. So another thing to keep in mind when we're talking about retirement accounts is planning for when you want to retire. Go online, look for a retirement calculator, and you can get a general idea of how much you're going to need to put aside per year in order to retire. And I suggest that you do that, figure out how much you want to save, and then set up your budget around that. As an example, the average American only saves about 3% per year, and then even with those that identify as people that are actively saving, they only save about 8% per year. As a general rule, you're going to want to save at least around 15% of your income, and ideally over 20%. So in the vein of retirement and planning for the future, the fifth way to get better with money is to work on your credit score. Having a good credit score is very important because it effectively determines what you're able to buy and where you're able to live. It also affects the amount of interest that you'll end up paying on a car or a house, and it could even affect your ability to rent an apartment or to get a specific job. The first step to getting a better credit score is to know what your score is. There are plenty of places online where you can look up your credit score for free. Often people will suggest Credit Karma. However, I prefer Bankrate.com. I don't have affiliation with Bankrate. However, they do a very good job of explaining the different factors that are affecting your credit score, what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And that way it makes it easy for you to come up with a step-by-step plan to get better with your credit. My next video will be on how to increase your credit score, so I'll do a really thorough breakdown on this in the future. So the sixth way to get better with money this year is one that I think far too many people overlook, and that is to not spend your tax refund. Tax season is just around the corner, and you managed without this money already. So don't spend it. There's no reason to. Here are some things that you should do instead. First off, is pay debt. Any debt that you have that is 4% or more, you should focus on paying that off before anything else, in my personal opinion. If it's low interest or good debt, like 2% rate on a mortgage, this is probably not as big of a priority. However, if it is 4% or more, I highly suggest paying off the debt first before worrying about putting it anywhere else. So if you don't have high interest debt that you need to pay off, the second place that I would put it is your emergency fund, because you need to prioritize getting an emergency fund before you start risking that money investing it elsewhere for a higher return. Like I said earlier, I'd put this in one of the high yield savings account like Wealthfront, Tab, or Ally, earning around 2% interest and there to cover you in case something comes up. If you already have debts paid off and you already have a full emergency fund, then the third place that I would put that money is to invest it. What I like to do is put it in investment accounts that don't charge commissions. Two great examples of these are Robinhood and Webull. I prefer these two because they don't charge commissions, and that means that they're not eating into my profits each time that I sell or buy a stock. When you're doing this, one thing to keep in mind is that buying and selling individual stocks is risky and not something that most people are going to be able to consistently make more money than the general market will. I highly suggest just buying ETFs or index funds. Basically, you're going to want to look up and do the research yourself to determine what risk tolerance you have and what your goals are for the returns you're looking for. Out of the two apps, Robinhood has the easier platform. So for a beginner, I would highly suggest going with Robinhood. However, if you've been trading stocks and you want more detailed charts to be able to look at, Webull is probably better for the more experienced trader. If you're interested in either of these apps, look down below in the description box. I will put links there. And once you sign up and you fund the account, you'll get a free stock. And what's better than free money? So guys, those are the 6 things that everyone can do to get better with money this year. And my next video will be on credit card scores, why they matter, and how to increase yours. Thank you so much for watching. And if you got something out of the video, please be sure to like it. And if you want content like this in the future, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon below so that you don't miss any of my new videos. And if there's anything you want me to discuss or that you have questions, please comment down below and let me know so that way I can get you the information that you're looking for. Also, if there's anyone that you know that could benefit from this information, please feel free to share it. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time.